We're getting things going on time. My name is Hilary Dukes. I'm the Training and Development Coordinator at Supply Build Canada. You might recognize my name from your inbox. I've been working hard to spread the word about our upcoming professional development sessions at our showcase in January. Ahead of the trade show on January 19th and 20th, we've got 2 full days of training on leadership, marketing, and sales. And one of our facilitators at the trade or at the showcase, Mike McDole, is joining us here today. Before I introduce Mike, I want to remind you that the early bird discount for retailer registration to the showcase ends on Sunday, November 30th. So make sure to get those registrations in. Without further ado, thank you to our webinar sponsor, Sexton Group. Please note we're recording this webinar and I ask that you keep your microphones off, but I do encourage you to put your comments and questions in the chat and I'll read those as they come in.
Live.
Mike McDole brings over 40 years of experience in the LBM world. He's spent 2 decades with the largest independent dealer in New England, including 12 years as their senior VP. After stepping out on his own in 2021, he launched Firing-Line LBM Advisors and now works with dealers across the US. Mike's sweet spot is helping sales teams level up, everything from sales management and training to prospecting, profitable growth, and tightening up operations. On top of that, he's a familiar name in the industry, writing for trade publications, speaking at conferences, and regularly appearing on LBM webinars. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Hilary. I appreciate it. So thank you all for attending. And excuse me. So the title of this presentation of this webinar is a 3-pronged approach to what I call brushing away the prospecting cobwebs. And the reason I say that is for three and a half years, from 2021 right up to 2024, in most areas of North America, it was tough enough just to handle the business coming at you, let alone going after new business. So I kind of came up with this earlier in 25 because you didn't have to prospect really, but things have slowed down, there's no doubt. And so I've kind of, in my experience, 40 plus years in the industry, I find that there's 3 different approaches, if you would, to prospecting. We're going to get into that. But as you can probably tell, I am definitely not from the Winnipeg or wherever you are in Canada. I am from outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm told that I have an accent. So to make life a little bit easier for you to understand me, on the left, and we're not going to go through every word, of course, but on the left is how I say things, and people like that live in my area, and then the English translation. So as Hillary said, if you do have questions or comments, put them in the chat box. And if one of them is you don't understand what I'm saying because of the way I'm saying it, I have thick skin, no problem. I can deal with it. So this just gives you a little idea of, hopefully you can understand everything I'm saying. So as Hillary mentioned, I'm not going to go through this because she did a great job. And the only reason I put this slide up there is not to pat myself on the back or anything like that. It's so that you realize that my experience in the lumber and building material industry, working for independent dealers throughout my career in the Northeast US, has given me a ton of experience that I'm hoping to share with you today. So what are we going to cover in this webinar? We're going to cover prospecting, of course, what I call horizontal growth and vertical growth, and I will certainly explain the differences between the two. We're going to talk about ways to find and research potential opportunities and prepare you for when to reach out to them. What is the difference between warm calling and cold calling? And then tips for professional salespeople. And of course, much more over the next 45, 50 minutes. So I don't know how many of you have watched the TV show The Office, but this character's name is Stanley. And so the first picture says, sales is not hard. Here's what I do. I make my pitch, then I stare. You want me to stop? Buy something. And I throw that up there because if you watch the show, he's pretty funny. But more importantly we wish it was that simple. Sales is not simple in any industry, but specifically in the lumber and building materials industry. So, as I said, there's 2 phrases I used in my career in growing sales, and one is horizontal growth. And before I get into that, obviously you can read the screen, but you have this executive that says, our study concludes that this is the percentage of our customers who will buy from us without any effort on our part whatsoever. And of course, it's 0%. The sales in the LBM industry, while you do have people that come to your establishment, in order to keep those people coming back, you have to become, what I like to say, invaluable to them. So again, let's get back to horizontal growth of my definition. So if you put all your customers, whether you're salespeople and you have assigned accounts or just, customers that buy from you and your location, if you were to put them on a spreadsheet and go from the left to the right, listing all your customers, excuse me, I'm sorry, I swallowed one. I apologize. Adding new customers will add horizontally. You're adding new customers along that axis or along the spreadsheet. So sales prospecting is the activity of identifying, contacting potential customers to generate new sales. We all know that. Prospect by finding and engaging with targets to turn them into an opportunity and then into a customer. So we're going to dig into this a little bit deeper. But in my world, horizontal growth is adding new customers. Vertical growth is what I consider to be the low-hanging fruit. It's not easy by any means, but it's easier than going after brand new business. And we're going to touch on brand new business a little later on. But vertical growth is getting more from your existing customers, or what's called wallet share, growing the wallet share. So the first thing is identify your existing customers. What are they buying? More importantly, what aren't they buying? So if they're buying framing lumber from you, but they're not buying windows or interior doors or whatever other product lines you sell, go after that. Those customers already have a relationship with you and your organization. They know you, they know your company, but they're not buying, again, certain product lines that you sell. What I have found in my experience is if you reach out to those customers and say, hey, we really appreciate that you buy all your framing lumber from us, or whatever it might be. However, we notice you don't buy windows or siding or whatever it might be that you sell and you do well at. And my experience says that those customers will at least give you the opportunity to present to them because they already know you and your company. So as I said, the first step, and everybody's ERP system may not do a graph like this, but you can certainly identify, or you should be able to, what are your customers, what categories are they buying, which is fine. What categories are they not buying, which is, to me, more important. So we did it on a I believe it was twice a year we ran these reports, and it was more in this graph type thing. So what you're looking at here is in my former company, we had 52 outside salesmen in 4 states in New England. And so what I wanted to compare was, what are those salesmen selling or not selling? This slide, and I know I confused you, I apologize. This particular slide is looking at the salesperson. And what it's saying is this salesperson, which is in blue, compared to the other 51 salesmen, was not selling roofing and siding. So the first thing is to talk to the salesman. Why? Are they not confident in that product category? Do they not have the product knowledge? Do they think that maybe a company isn't as good at it as they should be? Work with the salesperson first. But then we also did this exact same thing with customers. So when you look at this slide, the orange is all of our outside salesmen combined, all 52. So just to give you an idea, if you went to what I have, millwork interior, or MWI as we called it, so that'd be pre-hung doors, moldings, stair parts, hardware, stuff like that. That's what we categorize as millwork interior. If you look at the orange, it's running a little over 7%. And what that means, to put it into perspective, is all 52 salesmen, we did about $460 million the last year I was there. 7.3% of their volume was in that category. If you look at the blue, it's higher than 7.3, which means that customer and that salesman is, we're getting all their interior. So I don't need to worry about that. But when you look over to the left at the siding and roofing, you see that they are not buying any of that, or very, very little. So I would want to meet with the salesman and the customer and ask why. There could be very good reasons. I remember one of our larger customers bought almost everything from us, but did not buy windows from us. And when I dug into it, I found out that the guy's brother worked for the window company. Okay, I get that. But many times what we found as we peeled back the onion, if you would, is customers would say, geez, I didn't know you were good at it. Like, roofing and siding, I'm sure that it's the same in Canada as it is in the US. There's a lot of specialty places that sell roofing and siding. And so a lot of lumber yards don't do a good volume in that. We actually did fairly well, but many of the builders didn't think lumber yards could be competitive. So we would bring that up to them. We would show them that we can be. We could show them we had the right equipment and so on and so forth. What I learned is just by asking the customer for, a shot at those categories they're not buying from us is not going to guarantee you getting the business. But if you don't ask, I'll guarantee you'll never get. I had that saying in the back of my mind for all the years I've been in sales, and that is, if you don't ask, you don't get. The answer could be no, but maybe the answer is, you know what, I'll give you a shot. I like you guys. You really do good in the product lines I carry. I buy from you and so on. You know what? Yeah, I'll give you a shot on whatever it is they're not buying. But identify it first, and then obviously pursue that business. And the reason I say it's the low-hanging fruit is because you do not have to cultivate the relationship, you already have it. So why must we prospect? Because it's natural for existing customers to move away, retire, pass away, or hopefully this doesn't happen, but maybe even change suppliers. So prospecting to me is an ongoing event if you're in sales. The other thing, we would have some salespeople say to us that they're too busy to prospect. They're too busy. And we would kind of do a little analysis and say, well, hold it, I get that you have X amount of customers assigned to you. And again, in my business, we had outside salesmen. We get that they had X amount of customers assigned to them, but all the customers are not busy at the exact same time. So what we found was the salespeople, if they really started to do some introspective, if you would, of how do they spend their time, they did have time to prospect. Now, even if it's an hour a week, depending on your volume and what have you, it's a necessary evil, if you would. And we're going to get into that a little bit. But as you're going after new business, and when I say new business, one of the prongs of the three-pronged approach, I already just showed you, it's identifying what your customers are not buying. That's one of the prongs. But even them, keep in mind that the needs of those customers or prospects are the same as your current. If you're taking care of the needs of your current customer in various product lines, then you can take care of the issues or potential issues that a prospect will have. They're not any different. So have the confidence that you and your company are taking care of potential issues and what have you, so that you can have the confidence to go after more business. I love this saying attributed to Mark Twain. It says, courage is the resistance to fear, and mastering fear, not the absence of it. And you might say, well, why do I have that up on the screen? I have it up there because my experience is, and I don't want to say the majority, but there are a large quantity of salespeople that truly fear prospecting or going after new business. And so I get that. That's a lot. A lot of us have that issue. And the reason I went through this up there is this is a good point. Courage isn't resisting fear; it's mastering it. So, man, you think of the military and things like that. You think they're not scared? Of course they are, but they persevere. And in sales, it's similar. And I am not, by no means, I want to clarify, am I saying sales is like the military? That not anything like that. But my point is you can overcome the fear of prospecting, especially if you keep working at it. It doesn't come easy to most people. I get it. You have to be, work at it to really become proficient. And also, relationships must be earned. Trust must be earned. And we're going to get into that as far as pursuing new business. And I'm going to say this a number of times during this webinar is pursuing new business is not only going after brand new customers that have not bought from you or your company, but also your existing customers. And can you grow their business? So let's talk about ways to find potential new customers. In today's world, it's a lot different than when I was on the road in the 90s and there wasn't the internet and social media and what have you. So in today's world, in my opinion, there's a bunch of ways to find them. The easiest and the strongest way is to try to get a referral from your existing customers. So if you have a customer or customers, excuse me, that are buying from you on a regular basis, they trust you, they trust your company. Ask them. They probably have friends in the industry too that are not buying from you or buying from a competitor, and say, you're obviously happy with the way I service you, the way my company services you. You wouldn't continue to do business if you didn't. Could you at least put a good word in for me with so and so? And most customers will say yes. Again, you might get a no, but if you never ask, you'll never get a yes. So the reason I have this highlighted in yellow is referrals absolutely are the strongest way of getting a prospect's attention. Prospect being somebody not buying from you. Think about yourself. If a friend of yours or somebody you trust, he says, hey, you really got to try this painter or this, whatever it might be. He did my house. He really did a great job or what have you. The chance of you reaching out to that person is very high. Now, whether you hire him or not, that's up to you. But because somebody that you trust recommended him, you're probably going to reach out to him on whatever project you're doing. But that is no different. If you have a home builder or a remodeler or what have you that refers you to someone else, that prospects, I'd say 90% of the time, is going to at least give you the opportunity to talk to them, as opposed to a complete cold call, which we're going to get into in a minute too. The other thing, and this is for outside salespeople more than anything, if you're on a job site or out on job sites, I should say, and you walk right by all the subcontractors, especially let's say plumbers, electricians, painters, maybe products you and your company don't sell, stop doing that. Develop a relationship with the subs. My guess is if you're selling frame and lumber, you already know the framers, which is great. And by the way, ask the framers for who else are they working with. But when it comes to plumbers, electricians, painters, etc., if you're walking by them on a job site like they don't exist, stop it. If you develop a relationship, and I'm not saying you're going to spend 30 minutes chatting with them every time you see them, of course not. But if you acknowledge them and you develop a little bit of a relationship, guess what? They're called subcontractors for a reason. They work for many, many companies. And if you start to develop a little bit of a relationship, again, just, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, I saw you last time. Or, if they're doing something that you really want to compliment, not a phony compliment, but a genuine, do it. I remember being on a job site with a salesperson, and he's chatted with the electrician, and the guy was down in the basement, and I went down and I met the electrician, and the salesperson is complimenting him on the wiring going into the panel. You swear the guy put a level on it. It was just perfect. So the salesman, and everybody likes to be complimented. So that the subcontractor spent just a couple of minutes saying, hey, yeah, what's your name? And yeah, I see you around, and so on and so forth. And after a while, maybe after 2, 3 different jobs of seeing that same electrician or painter or whatever, you develop a little bit of a rapport. Ask them, say, well, who else do you work for? And they can at least say, oh, I work for McDole Construction, and they got a 12-house subdivision, or whatever it might be. If you just walk by them like they don't exist, they're going to think that you're kind of pompous. So that's just one way. Referrals, your existing customers, who do they know in the industry that they can refer you? But subcontractors can also be a source for new business. Also, joining local home builders associations, and the networking opportunities. I don't know how many of you on this webinar have ever attended any HBA meeting or event, but the networking opportunities, the builders and contractors join. I happen to throw 4 up here. I'm guessing there's even more. But just to give you an idea, and even if there's not a whole lot of prospecting to be done, if you and your company belong to the local HBA and you promote it, you let the customers know you belong to that HBA. Members of HBA like doing business who support their association. You're not going to get business just because you do that, but the fact that you support their association is a feather in your cap. Also, when you're joining HBAs, because you're a supplier member, associate member, a lot of them call it, you'll have access to member list, which you more often than not has phone numbers and emails and what have you. Cross-reference them against your customer base and take a look at who's part of that association that's not buying from you. Get involved to their golf tournaments or their fishing or whatever it is, that they're doing, holiday parties, things like that. The more that you're seen, the better the chances that customer who's buying from someone else is going to network with you, get to know you, and so on. I also will advise that if you do start going to some of the HBA events, do not use that as a hard sell opportunity. You're gonna turn off the people that are there. What I like to call it soft sell. So you develop a relationship, maybe you have a beer with them or what have you. You talk about sports, you talk about whatever it is, and just have that prospect be comfortable talking with you. And then down the road, you could say, hey, can we set up a time where I can come to your office and really show you what I do and my company does? Don't take the time at that networking event to do that unless that potential customer asks you a whole bunch of questions, which is not unusual. But in that case, then you're answering what they're asking you. I strongly advise against using that as a hard sell opportunity, because I think that's not why they're there. The other thing in today's world, of course, is the internet, and You can look at search engines and websites. So once you identify and let's just say a prospect, okay, hopefully you identify a bunch of prospects, but you identify someone that you know is busy, they're buying from a competitor. Before you reach out to them to set up an appointment or to ask for an appointment, dig in to get as much information as you can. The first place to start is their website. Um, every builder or contractor that I'm aware of has a website. Obviously, some websites are better than others, but they're one thing that they all have in common. They're proud of their work, and they should be. They should be. So they put pictures up on their website, a lot of them. Um, take a look at what they do, kind of what do they have a specialty thing like that? Take a look at in, most contractors have an About Us page. Click that on. You're going to find out, okay, what is it? Two brothers? Is it a, a company that's third generation, been around forever, and so on? As much information as you can get so that when you do reach out to them, and you mentioned a couple of things like, hey, I know you've been around, your third generation's been around since 1950 something, whatever it might be. They realize you've at least done some work before just dialing for dollars. Um, take a look at where they build, what they build. Maybe they specialize in custom homes or additions or decks or whatever it might be. The more you can personalize it, the better chance that they're at least going to give you an opportunity. If you can, try to visit one or more of their projects. And again, you personalize it. When you contact that customer, you can say, hey, I'm so and so and from my company, and I was out at your job at something Main Street, and really impressive or what have you. If you can find something that's unique or stands out about that project, utilize that. So for instance, I had a salesman tell the rest of the group at a sales meeting that he was out on a job site and a new customer, well, he was pursuing the customer at the time, and they did a barrel roof over their great room, and it was super impressive. And so he used that. He goes, I was out at whatever it was, 125 Main Street, and I saw that barrel roof, and unbelievable. It's, phenomenally impressive and what have you. There's no doubt in my mind that that customer who probably was rolling his eyes that he picked up the phone on a cold call, but once the salesman started personalizing it, it kept that person on the phone even longer, where eventually he did get a face-to-face. Another example was another salesperson, and this is the opposite. It wasn't great workmanship. He went to the job site, and according to what he told us, is the house was just about done framing, and it looked like a whole nother lumberyard all over the job site to be picked up. So when he called the potential customer, he said, I'm so and so from, in my case, it was called National Lumber, and I was out at your job site, whatever the address was. And he goes, I have a question for you. He says, was there a change in the design from the time it was, um, first shipment sent out to actual build? And the customer says, no, no, no. Why do you say that? He goes, well, it just seems like there's a lot of material to come back, an awful lot. And he goes, so I just figured maybe the homeowner changed something. And the guy says, no, no, no. He goes, you think that's a lot? That's kind of typical. And so the salesman said, by the way, never, ever, ever knock the competition. Okay, never do that. Um, even if the competition deserves it. Because if you do that, you're basically calling that customer or that potential customer an idiot because he's buying from them. And this salesman was very professional. Even though he figured it was the lumberyard's fault because the lumberyard did the takeoff, what he said was, it just seems much more. He goes, I can tell you that in my company and what I do, I pride myself to have framing material, no more than a 3 to 5% come back. And he goes, and even that ticks me off. He goes, but if I had a $30,000 frame, I would expect maybe to pick up $1,000, $1,200 worth of stuff to bring back to the lumberyard. He goes, you have easily 5 times that here. And so that little hook, if you would, that customer says, you know what, let's meet, let's talk about it. So I gave you 2 examples. One was a barrel roof that was unbelievably impressive, according to the salesman. The other one was the amount of materials coming back, which told that salesman that whoever did the takeoff at the competitor really messed up. But the customer gave an insight saying, no, that's typical. So it wasn't just a screw up on that one job, it's the way they did takeoffs in general. Other ways to find potential new customers. We talked about HVAs. We talked about maybe you just know, through permit reports or whatever, which then you do some research on their website. If you can get out to their job site, that's all well and good. But don't dismiss social media. Now, I am on social media, but only for my work, my Firing-Line LBM Advisors. I'm not on it personal. But being on it personal is fine. But in this case, we're talking about using LinkedIn and Instagram are the 2 big ones that builders and general contractors and deck builders and remodelers, so on, they seem to be on it. And you may say, well, how can that get me business? I don't believe it's going to get you business. What I do believe is it's going to help you get business. So, for instance, LinkedIn. The winter, kind of like where you guys are, the winters are tough in Boston, no doubt. So on Sundays is the National Football League, which, there's a ton of football games on. And I know it's not Canadian football, but it's football. And I would sit there on LinkedIn, and I don't know whether you know this, but if you're on LinkedIn, go under network, go on network at the bottom, and then there's a search bar there. You could type in home builders in Edmonton, contractors, remodelers, whatever. And up will come a list of them that are on, in this case, LinkedIn, that are in that geographical area. From there, and this is back when I was at National Lumber, from there, I would connect with whatever builders or contractors I wanted to. And what I found is I'd say 75 to 80% followed me back, which is what you want. So again, it's not going to get you business, but it's going to have you be known. So if you're on LinkedIn or Instagram, you're a contractor and you put up pretty pictures of whatever project you just did or are working on and what have you, and you as a salesman for the lumberyard start liking what they post, they are like everybody else that does any social media post. A day or 2 after posting, they go see who likes it. And the more likes, the happier they are. What happens is they start to see your name or your company's name on an ongoing basis. So when you do reach out to them, you believe it or not, you're not a total stranger. They will say to you, "Oh yeah, I see you follow me and you like what I post and so on." So it just breaks the ice a little bit to get an appointment. That's what the cold call is. Your goal is to get an appointment. Instagram's the same thing. You could search there. I threw up X, but I found that not a lot of contractors are on X. I find them more on LinkedIn and Instagram. Facebook, maybe. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know. But the other thing on Instagram, if you do start following people and they follow you back, which is fine, because you may want to post, things that your company does, deliveries, trusses, windows, whatever it might be. And if they follow you back, they see that. But there is a section in Instagram, if you click down, like I have a company called Fletcher Development, in Connecticut. There's a spot there for contact. if you click that on, I would say 1 out of every 2 companies that are on Instagram, or maybe 2 out of 3 basically, has their cell phone and email address right there. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but is being on social media in and by itself going to get you business? No. Is it going to have you be known? And so therefore the person you're pursuing will probably give you an opportunity to come in face to face. It certainly helps. Other ways to find potential new business is, and this is the third prong, if you would. So the first prong was identify what your customers are not buying from you. The second prong in my presentation is going after new business, brand new customers. And then the third is take a look at what I call low volume customers. We call them house accounts. So they weren't necessarily assigned to a salesperson, but they're low volume, excuse me. But if you do a little digging, you find out that maybe they're doing 25% of their total purchases with you and 75% with someone else. So I remember this one time we had a customer doing about 100,000 a year from us, which was not a lot, but a good customer, paid the bills, all that stuff. But the salesman, when he dug into it, says, "Hey, I think their potential is about 400,000." He goes, "I think they're doing close to 300 from what I could tell with XYZ." And so he started to, say, "Hey, can we get more of your business?" I mean, and the customer basically said, "Yeah, no one's ever really shown me any love." And it wasn't worded that way, but basically, we didn't pay a lot of attention. He did his 100 grand with us because we had locations where he was working. Once we started showing him that we do care about him, we do want his business, we got it up to a 50-50 mix. So we doubled his sales just because we identified it. The other thing, which I found this to be a pleasant surprise. So we had a rookie salesperson who didn't, who we put out on the road in a certain area as a road salesman, and we gave him a couple of accounts, but we didn't have an awful lot. So I figured it was going to take a couple of years for him to build his business. And like a lot of new salespeople, he went after the smaller customer or remodelers. And one day he calls me and says, "Hey, guess where I was the last hour and a half?" I said, "I have no idea." He says, "I went to one of the big box stores." And he goes, "You ever go to a box store at 6:30 in the morning?" He goes, "There's pickup trucks and vans loaded outside of the contractor entrance." He goes, "And I just stood outside and chatted with people coming out." I can't believe the big box manager didn't throw him out of there, but I'm like, "Hey, good." And by the way, the guy ended up being a great salesman, but he got some business that way. So I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting in that example is there's non-traditional ways to get some business. So let's talk about cold calling. Um, I don't think any of us will ever be 100% prepared. You'll never, and I am loaded with confidence, and I still have a little doubt if I were to go knock on a door, but make the call anyway. Research the prospect ahead of time. This is kind of a rehash of what I've already said. Draft a cold call intro. Okay. Now, cold call could be in person, or it could be an actual call, of course, or an email or what have you. So draft it. What are you going to say? But do not try to memorize a script. I think people on the other end of the phone or in person realize that all you're doing is reading something or memorizing something. What you want to memorize is what are the points you want to make sure you get out, but not necessarily an actual script. Practice and have a plan if they answer and don't answer. So if you're going to actually call, which is fine, and I do realize that in today's world, many people are like me. If they're not in my contacts, I don't pick up. But think about it. If these guys are contractors, whether they're remodelers, they're whatever it is, most of the calls they get are not in their contacts because it could be a potential client of theirs. So they're much more likely to pick up. But you should be prepared. What are you going to say if they pick up and if they don't pick up? If you're going to leave a voicemail, do not ramble. Keep it under 30 seconds, which is a long time. A 15-second one is fine, a 20. Nothing, my head goes down when I see a voicemail that's a minute and 52 seconds or something like that. And I think most people are the same way. So don't ramble and try to pique their curiosity. I gave you two examples, the barrel roof on one job and the excess materials on another. It's a long shot, but it's necessary. So pre-planning, this is now what I call warm calling. Warm calling, it is certainly a referral, obviously, but it's also doing your homework. I talked about the websites. I talked about going to jobs if you can do that. Look at social media. Get as much info as you can on that customer so that when you do connect with him or her, you can say, hey, I was out at your job site, or I noticed, I know you and your brother are running it. You've been, it's been in business since 1997, whatever it might be. What it says to that person on the other end of the call is you've done your work already. So here's an example of what you could say. So, hello, Mr. Knobloch. I'm Mike McDole from Superior Lumber. I was talking to Connor McDavid the other day, and he suggested I reach out to you. I stopped by your ongoing project, and without blowing smoke, I have to say I am impressed with the design and workmanship. I'm calling because I saw some things that I'm confident we can help increase your efficiency and productivity, which will positively impact your profitability. I know I'm interrupting you now, but can we set up a brief meeting so I can explain further? I assure you I will not take much of your time. That was, even though there's a lot of words on this screen, that was about 20 seconds. That's it. And that could be a voicemail. That could be whether the guy picked up or not. And more often than not, he's going to probably say something like, no, thanks. I'm happy with my current supplier. You're going to hear that a lot. So one of the responses could be, I understand, Mr. Knobloch, we work really hard to make sure our customers are happy with us also. However, are you 100% happy with them? Is there anything at all that you would like to see improved or changed with them? And maybe we can help you with that particular issue. Another response could be, I understand, Mr. Knobloch. I'm not asking nor expecting to get the bulk of your business, but rather we could be your insurance policy if XYZ lumber trips up. And I used that back in the 90s, and many customers would say, what do you mean insurance policy? Well, I'm not saying that every time you need us, we're going to be able to respond because we might have all our trucks out, whatever. But if you develop a relationship with us and something happened with your main supplier, give me a call. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure your job keeps running. And again, never knock the competition. We're all human beings. We make mistakes, they make mistakes, and so on. What you want to do is say, we could be your insurance policy if needed. The other thing you could say, or perhaps we could supply products that you're not buying from them. If you say XYZ, you're very happy with them, and I would say something like they're a good company. Even if they're not, I would say that, of course, and say, but are there product lines you're not buying from them that we could talk about? That kind of thing. So I could have 6 slides on different things to say, but my point is prepare yourself, not word for word, not memorizing, but what points do you want to make clear to that to that prospect? So as we're coming towards the end, about 5 more minutes or so, these are things that I've accumulated over the years, and I call them tips for being a professional salesperson. So here's a quote I saw years ago. I love it. It says, attitude drives actions, actions drive results, and results drive income or lifestyle. So what does that mean? Positive attitude will drive positive actions, just like negative attitude is going to drive negative actions and negative results. The results will drive your income or your lifestyle. Now, that's obviously literal. The way I take it is if you're a commissioned salesperson, then of course, the more you do, the more you get. But maybe you're a counter salesperson or a specialty salesperson, what have you, and you're on salary. But maybe you get a bonus each year. Well, the more the company does, the more profits the company brings to the bottom line, the bigger the bonuses or incentives are going to be. If you're an hourly employee, you obviously want raises. Well, they come from profits. And so if you have a positive attitude, more often than not, it's going to result in positive results. Become invaluable. And I have that underlined because if you can ever get to a point, and you may already be, if you think about some of the relationships you and your company have with your customers, you may already be invaluable to them, meaning you eliminate or solve problems. The more you can do that, the more successful you'll be. Now, one thing I've learned is the customers are never going to tell you you're invaluable to them because they think you're going to raise the price. But if you get to a point where that relationship is so strong, you take such good care of them, your company takes such good care of them, they are not going to leave you for a couple of points. If somebody comes in a few points under, they aren't leaving you for that. If you reach that level of a relationship, we use that phrase all the time in my former company. We wanted to be invaluable. Take responsibility. Do not point fingers and what have you. Even if, I mean, if you messed up, you had a left-hand door, it should have been a right hand, what have you. That's easy to say. I messed up. Here's what I'm doing to correct it. I apologize or something like that. But even if somebody else in your company, let's say the load builder threw on 2x6s, this should have been 2x8s. Okay. Instead of saying, that I can't believe that idiot in the yard did that or whatever. No. Just say, you know what, we messed up, and I already got it being put on a truck, the right stuff. We're going to be out there as quick as we can. Nobody wants to hear any dirty laundry. So take responsibility. And if it's not you personally that did the mistake, but your company did, use the word we. Become a person of action, getting things done. You want to be known not only from your customers, but your fellow workers, the people you work with, that you are a person of action. And if you say you're going to do something, do it. That's part of becoming invaluable to the customer. Be a consistent, positive performer, deliver on your promises. As I just said, if you say you're going to do it, do it. And what do customers want? They want what we want. They want more sales, greater profitability, a better image, less hassles, more free time. We all want that. What I've learned in 40 years in this business, if you and your company are able to get them even one of those things, price becomes secondary. The bottom line is the more value you provide, the less price matters. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not saying that price never comes into play. Of course it does. But if you're 2 to 3% higher and you have become invaluable, they're not leaving you for that. Obviously, can you be 10 to 15% high? Of course not. So you can, but if you're able to get the relationship with your customers to the point of being invaluable, you should be able to get 2 to 3% more than your competition. So continuing, when experiencing a price objection, if your first instinct is to immediately lower your price, then you'll never know if you could have gotten the original price. Not to mention, you set a precedent. What does that mean? If especially new customers, if they say, well, can you do any better? And your immediate action is, well, yeah, I can take a couple of bucks off or what have you, assuming that you have the authority. There's a couple things you just did. That customer is now questioning whether you gave him the right price to begin with, or were you taking advantage of him? Also, you set a precedent where he's going to ask you to lower your price every single time going forward. So I am not going to sit here or ever say that, never have to reduce your price. There are certain circumstances, but do not do it immediately, even if you have the authority. Make it seem like they are asking for the world. And a response could be something like, I saw the margin I got to tell you, it's phenomenal. It's unbelievable. We sell a ton of these, and I know our pricing is good. Can you tell me exactly what do you have a competitor's price or what have you? Many times customers ask the question, can you do better? Just to throw it out there, not because they actually have, some a competitor's price or anything like that. So have confidence in your company's pricing strategy, their service level, and their quality, along with your worth. Your company would not be in business for as many years as they have if they didn't know how to price the products competitively. They would not be in business if they didn't have quality and a great service level. But you're worth something. Think about what you do for your customers day in and day out. There's a value to that. So in summary, the three ways of increasing revenue under what I call the three-prong approach to prospecting is identify product groups your customers are not buying from you and go after that business. There's your low-hanging fruit. Identify your customers who are buying a smaller percentage from your company than your competitor. And can you get that to be a 50-50? You may not sway that to be 100% your way, but in the case of the example I gave you, that customer was buying what we felt to be 25% from us, 75% from a competitor. We got it to a 50-50. And then, of course, identify and research potential new customers, especially referrals from existing customers and subcontractors. If you can get a referral, that's huge. Now, I can tell you, if you can get your existing customers to actually call a friend of theirs and say, hey, I just spoke to Mike McDole at XYZ Lumber, and I told him to give you a call. He treats me unbelievable. His company's unbelievable. I think you ought to talk to him. If you can get a customer to do that, that is gold. More often than not, you're probably not going to get that. You're probably going to say, you could ask your existing customer, can I drop your name? Can I use your name when I reach out to so-and-so? And that you're probably going to get a yes. So now you can make that call to that prospect and say, I was talking to so-and-so and they recommended I reached out to you. More often than not, that person on the other end of the phone is either going to keep the conversation going or call you back or what have you if they have to leave a voicemail. So in wrapping this up, as you have found in the last 50 minutes, I'm told that when I'm outside of New England, I talk funny. So I'll leave you with a Boston joke. In most of the country, if you lose your khakis, I should have said most of North America. But anyway, you lose your khakis, you have no pants. But in Boston, you lose your khakis, you can't start your car. So with that, Hillary, I'm going to open it up. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, just shout anyone that has any questions, please just call them out. I do have a question actually. I'm
Yes.
curious, what if you've identified a common mistake that folks are making while prospecting?
Yeah, pushing too hard, too fast. You have to develop, um, and it's easier said than done, of course, but a little relationship, a little trust before you. And I'm not saying don't ask for business, of course, but it don't come on too hard. Develop a relationship, meaning, say, hey, I've seen your jobs or I've seen your website, I've seen your name out there, whatever it might be. And I want to just be able to tell you what myself brings to the table and my company, something like that. And I mean, I know back when I was on the road, I pursued a customer decent size. It took me well over a year to get an order from him. And I probably reached out to him after the beginning, maybe every couple of months. Because the other thing, when you ask about a mistake, is being too pushy. So, for instance, if you left a voicemail today, don't call the guy tomorrow and leave another voicemail.
Right,
You know,
right.
so maybe a week or so you could say, hey, I know I left your voicemail. I'm sure you get 1,000 of them or what have you. So I just wanted to leave another one or something like that. But yeah, I would say being too pushy is probably the biggest mistake.
All right. Rebecca's got a question here.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I thought this was a great sort of preview for what you were going to be doing in January before our showcase. And I was wondering what you're most excited about that longer time frame to really dig into with our members.
Well, excellent question. I am doing, I think it's 5 presentations, if you would, but they're all intertwined, if you would, because sales is just not a 45-minute presentation and, bang, you're a great salesperson. It's all working together. And I've done this, and I love the fact that I can bring all 5 of I think it's 5, maybe it's 6, I forget, topics, but they all are intertwined, I guess would be the word I'd use, that if you build upon each one of them, you should be able to go back, and as good as you are today, I think you could be even better. And I am not saying that I am a perfect salesman, by no means. My experience comes from not only me doing it, but with 52 outside salesmen in 4 states in the US, I've seen it all, from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've taken, a little bit from each one of them. So hopefully that answers your question.
Excellent. I had another question for you. I'm curious if you have a favorite character from The Office.
Yes. Sorry, but I'm a Michael Scott fan. I don't know if that's the right answer or not, but why do you have one?
You know what? I do love Stanley. I really do.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, there you go. So it was. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it definitely was a well-written show. Yes.
Yes, absolutely it was. I do also just want to mention we are half sold out for your professional development session in January. So that one has been,
Wow.
yeah, it's been going really quickly here. We're really excited for it. Was there anyone else here that had any questions? Otherwise, I think we're probably ready to wrap it up. We're just hitting 2:00 now.
Okay, and I got to say, I've not been to Edmonton, but I'm guessing I'm not going to see a whole lot in January in Edmonton. I mean,
Yeah,
oh
in
yeah, it is
Edmonton.
Edmonton. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the week after, I get to go to Hawaii, so I don't
Oh,
know.
I mean, that'll be a big contrast. Yeah.
That'll be a big contrast. Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much. I enjoyed this.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Take care.
Yeah. All right. Bye-bye.